Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads. Let's continue with Maryellen, the one and only. Chapter 4, Taking Responsibility. Mom! Yelled Joe and Carolyn, Maryellen, Beverly, and Tom at the top of their lungs. Fire! Yelled Jerry. Paint! Yelled Mikey. Arr! Howled Scooter. The car screeched to a stop, and Mrs. Larkin, Betty, and Florence jumped out. What's going on? Mrs. Larkin shouted over and above all the noise. Oh my stars, look at this mess. How on earth did this happen? Suddenly everyone was quiet. None of them had ever seen Mom this mad before. Maryellen stepped forward. Mom, she began. Her voice sounded as wobbly as her knee felt. I was always trying to play the door. I didn't mean to make a mess. I'm sorry. Sorry? Joan repeated. You've ruined Jerry's tennis clothes. You've ruined our date. You've ruined the front of our house, and all you can say is sorry? Joan put her hand on her hips and leaned toward Maryellen. This is just the kind of disaster I was talking about earlier. When are you going to grow up? She started off with Jerry, holding him by the arm but gingerly so that he wouldn't get red paint on her tennis dress. Oh, Ellie, moaned Mom. She closed her eyes and pressed her red fingertips to her forehead. Then she opened her eyes and said, Ellie, I will speak to you about this privately. Carolyn, please help Betty and Florence get settled, and then give them a glass of iced tea on the back patio. Sure, Mom, said Carolyn. Everyone skedaddled, and Jerry and Joan drove away. Mom and Maryellen were alone. Maryellen picked up the paintbrush and the paint can and tried to explain. I only wanted to... But Mom interrupted. No explanations right now, please. And just leave this mess, she said flatly. We'll deal with it later, after Betty and Florence have left. Honey, I am disappointed in you. It is childish to get so carried away that you don't stop and think. I understand that in a big family like ours, it's hard to get your fair share of attention. There are better ways of getting attention than showing off and slathering red paint all over. Didn't you promise me this morning that you'd act more responsibly? Maryellen nodded. She was too close to tears to speak. She was sorry to have upset Mom, and she was even more sorry that her surefire way of pleasing Mom had completely backfired. What a flop! What a failure! What a disaster! She sure had failed Mom's test. Now Joan and Mom would never agree to the all-girls room. Worse than that, instead of thinking she was more grown-up, Mom and Joan now thought of her as even more messy and irresponsible than before. The full moon shone so brightly in the bedroom that Maryellen could not sleep. Lying on her upper bunk, she tossed and turned and couldn't stop thinking of the red paint disaster. Geez Louise, Ellie, Joan said sleepily. Stop spinning around. What are you doing? Practicing your underwater somersaults? Go to sleep, why don't you? Sorry, said Maryellen. She flinched, expecting Joan to jump all over again the way she had earlier when Maryellen had used the inadequate word sorry. But Joan didn't. In fact, her voice was kind when she said, Listen, Ellie Jelly, don't be so hard on yourself. You're upset because your red paint idea didn't work out. But everybody makes a mistake once in a while. Your mistake today just happened to be a Lulu. All my ideas seem to be mistakes, said Maryellen. They're all Lulus. Oh, I don't know about that, said Joan. You had one good idea today. I did? Miss Maryellen? She could hardly believe her ears. What was it? Joan giggled a little. You told Jerry to get on the ball, she said. Maryellen gulped. You're not mad about that? She said. Well, no, said Joan. In fact, I'm glad you said something. Maryellen was flabbergasted. Glad? She repeated. Mm-hmm, said Joan. Thanks to you, Jerry finally gave me his fraternity pin. He did? Screeched Maryellen. Yep, said Joan. I was hoping he would pin me before he went back to college in the fall, but of course I couldn't ask him. Girls don't propose to boys. So that means you're engaged to be engaged, right? Maryellen asked. Does that mean you'll get married soon? Now that Joan was being so nice, Maryellen wasn't sure she wanted her to leave. Not right away, at least. No, we won't be getting married for a while yet, said Joan. So don't say anything to Mom and Dad. Jerry and I want to talk to them together because it's a pretty big deal. Getting pinned does mean there's a wedding in our future. Oh boy, a wedding. said Maryellen. And can I help you plan it? You bet, said Joan. So see, not all of your ideas are bombs. Even this all-girl room isn't as bad as I thought it would be. I have more space in here, and you organize your stuff pretty well. After Betty and Florence leave, I think I'll tell Mom it's all right with me to make the move permanent. Really? Asked Maryellen, her heart lifting. Really, said Joan. She yawned, and then she said, You'll still have to get Mom to agree, though. Now, if you just come up with another one of your great ideas to undo the mess you made with the red paint out in front, you'd be all set. Meanwhile, go to sleep, okay? I'll try, said Maryellen, full of gratitude for Joan's forgiveness. She closed her eyes and tried to go to sleep. But her brain kept going over and over what Joan had said. Undo the mess, undo the mess. How, Maryellen thought, can I undo this mess? Maryellen slid out of bed, and quietly tiptoed outside into the balmy Florida night. She skittered over the grass in her bare feet and slipped through the hedge that divided her yard from Davy's. Tap, tappity, tap, tap, tap. Maryellen set her fingernails to beat their secret signal on Davy's bedroom window. After a moment, Davy appeared. He took one look at Maryellen and climbed out his window. What's up, Doc? He whispered. Maryellen had held one finger to her lips to signal quiet. With the other hand, she gestured Davy to follow her as she led the way to the garage and to Dad's workbench. She handed Davy the can of red paint and the paintbrush and gathered up rags, a scrub brush, and the tin of turpentine. Then she led Davy to the front of the house. Holy cow, breathed Davy when he saw the paint mess. What happened here? It's a long story, Maryellen said. Anyway, would you finish painting the door while I scrub the step? Sure, said Davy without hesitation. Just then Scooter scrambled into view. Holy cow, Davy exclaimed softly. Get a load of Scooter's stripes. He looks like a pudgy tiger, for Pete's sake. Hi, old boy, Maryellen said to Scooter. I'm afraid your shampoo will have to wait. The front of the house was bathed in moonlight, and as Davy started out the door, Maryellen soaked her rags in turpentine and scrubbed to remove the red paint from the front step. How did it splatter so far and wide? The turpentine had a sharp smell that made her eyes sting and nose run. But Maryellen did not give up. Davy seemed to enjoy painting. Hey, let's pretend we're in an episode of a TV show about pirates, he suggested. Or how about we're explorers, said Maryellen, perking up. And how we're sailing the seven seas when we were captured by pirates. That makes us work day and night. You're painting the mast, and I'm swabbing the decks of the pirate ship. But pretty soon, with our brave companion Seawolf, that's Scooter, we'll jump overboard and swim away. Good idea, said Davy. Ahoy there, Seawolf. Scooter jumped his tail to show that he was on the game. Pretending helped the time go faster, but still felt to Maryellen as though she was scrubbing for hours. Her knees hurt, her arms were sore, and her hands felt raw. At most of the splatter of the red paint was gone. Maryellen thought the step looked a bit pinkish, but perhaps it was just a trick of the moonlight. Davy finished painting the red door, and then he and Maryellen wiped their hands on the turpentine rags and washed them with the hose. Davy saluted and said quietly, Anchors away, matey. Maryellen saluted back. She sure hoped Joan was wrong about not being friends with a boy in the 4th grade. Davy was such a good pal. Anchors away, she said, and Davy, thank you. Davy grinned. Anytime, he said, and then zipped home. Maryellen sneaked back to bed, tired and smelling of turpentine. Good morning. The next morning, Mom woke Maryellen with a kiss. She opened the door to see Mom smiling at her. Hey, Ellie, Mom said softly. Are you the magic fairy who scrubbed away the red paint? Maryellen nodded, and Davy painted the door, she said. That was a big job, said Mom, and that's why I call taking responsibility. You're forgiven for yesterday. You know, I rather liked having a red door and a pink step out front, and I bet Dad will like them too. Come on, let's make breakfast. Betty is making pancakes. Yes, ma'am, said Maryellen. She hugged Mom so hard for a moment and then bounced out of bed. She was so happy and relieved that she practically flew into the kitchen. After breakfast, Mom and Betty and Florence all got dolled up. As soon as they left for their reunion, the house felt dull and empty. Maryellen was glad to see Mom when she got home that afternoon after having dropped Betty and Florence off at the airport. Was the reunion luncheon fun? Maryellen asked Mom. She wanted to see her old co-workers made Mom wish she was still the star of the factory. Yes, it was, said Mom as she kicked off her high heels and took off her hat. It was lovely to see everyone again. But Betty and Florence said they had more fun here at our house. They said it was far more entertaining than the reunion. Mom winked at Maryellen, who blushed. Betty and Florence got a big kick out of you kids. They told me that Dad and I are lucky to have such a lively, rowdy family. Mom hugged Mikey and tousled Tom's hair. And I think they're exactly right. Well, said Joan, most of the time. And everyone, even Maryellen, laughed. The very next day, Maryellen was in her bedroom sketching hairdos, and Mom popped her head in and said, I checked, and just as I suspected, you do need socks and underwear. How would you like to go shopping today? Sure, said Maryellen. All right, then, said Mom, let's go. So just like that, Maryellen found herself skipping happily through the shopping center parking lot next to Mom, trying to keep up with her mother's long strides. She was excited and delighted to be on a shopping trip, even if it was only for underwear and not for a new dress to wear on the first day of school, instead of Carolyn played hand-me-downs. That didn't matter. The important thing was that for today, for a few hours at least, Maryellen had Mom all to herself. That's the end of that chapter. See you later.